The Moscow Zoo is in the city center. The constant roar of cars, high-rise flats, and crowds of people. Here you can find animals from the desert or a shady plateau in the Andes, from the banks of the Amazon or the Bering Sea. The number of animals, birds, fish, and insects grew from 300 to 6,000 over the entire period of the Moscow Zoo's existence. The Moscow Zoo isn't the largest in the world, but at 140 years old, it's one of the oldest. Nearly 2 million children and adults visit it each year.
You ran away. Come here. Take it. Come on, don't be afraid. Well done.
People are allowed only to step into open-air cages for birds of prey after being given a detailed briefing. The main thing is not to make abrupt movements. In their natural habitat, these powerful and proud birds may be dangerous, but they're tamed so they can be studied in captivity.
It was In the Animal World, the TV program, where I first saw a golden eagle hunting a wolf. I saw the bird's claw as it was holding down the strong beast, and from that moment on, I took them into my heart, and I started studying them. You'll topple me over. What are you doing?
The black vulture's wingspan measures 3 meters. It's the biggest bird in the Russian fauna. Despite appearing quite formidable, Kesha likes being scratched on the back of his head and shows affection in his own way.
What are you doing? What have you done? Will you fix it? Just look. It's concerning how he tears pieces of meat. It's a new quilted jacket. The chief gave it to me. Well, there's nothing I can't forgive my friend for. I don't know. I like them.
This huge rock in the center of Moscow is man-made. It was specially built for the birds at the zoo and is close to natural rock. On the outside, it has stone ledges and niches. Inside, it's like a maze with a network of narrow corridors. It's the reverse side of the bird rock scenery, not an architectural mistake. It houses observation rooms where scientists monitor the birds every day. Even on the 4th floor, there are corridors and small doors leading to the nests. There are some jobs which the staff of the zoo can only do when there are no visitors. These are usually delayed until designated cleaning days when only the authorized personnel are on the premises. An ostrich is a huge and powerful bird, but also very timid. After living in a warm enclosure during the winter, they then have to be moved to outside living quarters when spring arrives. The changeover is often unsettling for them, and the move can be hazardous. To keep it calm, the personnel try to support this bird, both physically and emotionally. But it's stubborn and resistant, unable to understand why it's being moved. Had all of this happened on an ordinary day, the crowds of spectators would have made the ostrich go into a worse state of panic. At last, the ostrich has an element of freedom. It will spend several months in the enclosure before the onset of autumn. The zoo closes once a week for cleaning. The general public can't enter the zoo at this time, but for the birds which live in the city, crows, pigeons, and sparrows, have access to all areas. They swoop down and try to snatch what scraps of food they can. However, the zoo orders large amounts of bird seed for them. Except for the crows, that is, they are considered to be real pests.
There are lots of crows in Moscow. There are many on our ponds, and they catch chicks and eat them. Generally speaking, they like to eat chicks. That's why exotic birds' eggs are kept in the incubator.
"140 years ago, when the zoo was being built, its location was considered to be on the outskirts of Moscow. Today, it's in the very heart of the capital, as the city has grown through an urban sprawl. This is why people living nearby are forced to experience the sights and sounds of everyday life at the zoo. Occasionally, they complain. Attendants say animal cries are far more pleasant than the roar of car engines. However, the zoo has also tried to meet the residents halfway.
Gibbons mark out their territory, and they have to tell all of other gibbons about it. But at the Moscow Zoo, black gibbons used to tell residents in nearby houses instead. It's natural for them to roar. It's in their biological makeup. The tenants started to threaten us. They called us on the phone and sent letters. We were very worried for the animals, so we wrote to friends and colleagues at the Gibbon Breeding Center in Santa Monica, California. They suggested we swap a couple of black gibbons for their black-armed gibbons. They said the black-armed were very modest and didn't cry out as loud. But we could hardly imagine how modest they really are. Not only do they not cry out, they're even afraid to walk on rope.
An orangutan called Natella and her daughter Manana once lived at the Dresden Zoo in Germany. However, there was a problem because the other orangutans were aggressive towards them and wouldn't share food. So they had to find a new home, and eventually Natella and Manana found themselves in Moscow. Here, they were placed in a separate cage, and the mother was able to rear her baby in peace. Animals at the Moscow Zoo don't understand what the attendants are saying to them at first. They are used to commands in the language they heard in their country of origin. Eventually, however, they become accustomed to their new surroundings and learn to understand the new language. But for the elephants, it's a different story. It's believed they're some of the most dangerous animals to keep. Several people die every year at zoos all over the world because of incidents involving elephants. There was a tragic accident at the Moscow Zoo with 2 employees dying whilst tending to the seemingly good-natured giants. There's simply no time to teach them another language. But at times, they're spoken to in English. The word back is the chief command when handling an elephant. Natella, the orangutan, Kesha, the black vulture, Fifa, the ostrich, and a jaguar called Fedya, all of the animals have names which are often Russian.
When an animal arrives, it always has a distinguishing feature. Muse was so named because she was rather fond of growling, and her growl was rather rhythmical and musical. So, hence the name Muse.
Вот от этого пошло название Муза. А Федю назвали...
Fedya was named in honor of one of our colleagues. Actually, it's not commonplace to give animals human names, but sometimes the staff can't help it. A guy thinks an animal looks like a friend of his, Fedya, and so he becomes Fedya. And it sticks till the death. He might be Methuselah in his pedigree book, but for us, he will always be Fedya.
Но для нас он всегда будет Федя.